Welcome to Gray Overload. I'm Anthony, and it's finally came the time to review the OnePlus 9. So, I have had the phone for a month, and I've been using it. So, let's take a look of what I think and some things that need to be improved upon. And I'm not going to just touch on just OnePlus. I'm going to include a few other things because the whole phone is part of the entire setup. And so Android's going to take some blame on this. There's a lot of good things. I really like the phone overall. If I had to say, hey, is this a phone to get this year, or would I go with the OnePlus 10? Well, I don't have a OnePlus 10 to compare to, but would I get this phone again? Yes, most definitely. It is a good price. I think it was a little bit on sale when I got this phone. I spent about $1,000 for two phones. So my wife and I got two phones, and I really don't like spending much more than that for two phones, right? What is it? The OnePlus 10 Pro now is around $900, so that would be $1,600 for two phones, and then you got Samsung, which is like an iPhone, which are like $1,000 each, and when you're buying two phones at a time, it kind of gets expensive, and it's kind of crazy to spend that much money on two phones when this OnePlus is perfectly capable. And I'm actually glad that OnePlus has this leg on still selling their old devices. They probably have extra stock, but it works really well to service a market where there's people like me that don't want to spend all that money up front. So let's jump into kind of some of the issues um, that were happening. So one, migration needs to be better. So when you get a new phone and you're trying to migrate everything over, I know some people like to start fresh. At this point, I wanted to see what the migration kind of looked like, and it was bad. While a lot of the apps came over, I did not like that there was. It took so long, and there were some apps that were missing that I had to go re-download. So this is a lot with Android, but why wasn't like that whole migration all happening from that backup, right? I did the backup, and I moved over the OnePlus 9 phone from the OnePlus 6T, and it's supposed to then kind of move everything over. And why were things missing? That didn't make any sense to me. And I went through each app individually, verified each one to make sure it was there. So the whole setup process was way too long, right? Which maybe someday somebody can make this go down longer, but it took like to verify each app, right? That was like 2 hours per. So ridiculous, right? Absolutely ridiculous how long it took. Well, also one other thing is stop installing horrible apps, right? Just just leave it to the basics. Don't install any other apps. I guess they're not horrible, but they're annoying to me, right? I want to start out with like nothing on the phone, just the bare minimum apps, and then bring it up from there. So that's another thing, right? I noticed that there was other apps in there. I got rid of them. I'm not a huge fan of pre-installed apps to begin with. Um, you drop the price of your phone if you want to do that. So there, that was one of my issues as well. My wife did. She had one issue that she's been having recently, where you hit the power button and the volume down button, and you take a screenshot. And on this phone, it's really easy for her to hit that a lot in her case. So that's just something to keep in mind as OnePlus is designing it. So a another thing that is now solved, I will have to say, with the updates to Android 12 and the newer camera app, it is solved. But when it first came out and you first had it, and this was just an annoyance, is that the camera isn't set up to do at least the highest res photos or 4K, and it wasn't remembering the settings once you set it there. It now remembers the settings. Thank goodness, because it really needed it. Now, when people are buying a phone like this, right, they're not just buying the phone because they want it. They're also buying it for the specs of what it's capable of doing. So enabling some of those features of the phone that is capable of doing is probably a great way to actually show off those features and not have them search of how to do something. Not everybody wants to do that, but if we can actually, have that enabled to start out with, I think it's going to help more people be attracted to certain phones because of it, rather than having to search and say, why doesn't this work? I should have never bought this, right? You don't want that stigmatism going into somebody that, bought spent money on a device and now is not operating just because a setting that should have been probably enabled wasn't. Microsoft's syncing of their apps are horrible. I don't know what Microsoft is thinking, but when your authenticator app should sync to another device that you've signed into, verified it, and everything else, heck, you even use a two-factor authentication across it, and nothing came over. Thank goodness I still had the OnePlus 6, and I had two-factor Microsoft Authenticator with everything in it to it, because it absolutely is a bad experience. Microsoft did a horrible job, and it's making me look at different authenticator apps because of it, because ouch, Microsoft, just bad. I mean, oof. The slippery back, I got a case for it, and the case works pretty good. Now, in this same scenario without the backing, I'm not going to take this off, but it will slide and fall quite quickly. At least this does a pretty good job. Now, in doing that, one thing I also like about having just these little cases that you can include, that they used to in the OnePlus 6, is that if you have kids or anything else, it's just enough. When you put your phone down, it's not touching against the table, or may scratch against anything. It has a little bit of protection, so if you have kids or anybody else bumps it, or if you set your phone down and somebody bumps it, you have a little bit of protection. Maybe it's not the best, but it's there, right? It gives you just a little bit of protection that hopefully won't destroy the phone that you just bought. Now, this is the one, we're getting into OnePlus issues. And where are the updates, OnePlus? Stay on top of these updates. I don't know if you have to look at doing better in testing, or having a better cadence in software development, but having finally got Android 12 is, I expected it when I first got my phone, not 2.5 weeks after it, right? This phone is kind of long in the tooth already, and it seems like people are just disappointed overall in your forums in this whole update scenario that you're going through, and not really sticking to your cadences and what is expected of you out of the community, right? 2 major versions and then updates for what the third year after that, which you've had that, but it's kind of slipping, right? And you need to bring that back up, start jumping forward. I'm glad that you kind of slowed down your release cycle of 2 phones a year to 1 flagship and a couple of these smaller ones, or non-flagships. But the software side of it needs to get fixed, and you get that kind of rock solid. Maybe Android needs to take a different approach and say, we'll update the software, and all these other companies are going to have to go through the App Store with kind of, if they want anything else, rather than trying to integrate their stuff into Android. I get it's open source and all that, but when you're looking for security updates and everything else, you got to kind of stay on top of that. And new features, right? The selling points of some of these phones now are you get updates. And it seems like this is just taking a while to do. And I wish it wasn't. I really wish that it was a little bit faster. But once I get the update, right, on this phone, why is it taking and messing up all the settings that I already set? That's annoying. Very annoying, right? I want my settings that I've already set up to migrate over, right? It's one thing if it's a brand new phone and it's coming and you're just upgrading right away. But when you've already set up the phone, you've spent time to set it up, and you're changing settings, that's not cool and not fun either. With the Android 12, right, it was pretty seamless overall, not a bad update. But when I go check for updates, right, I want to go grab that update. So have a feature where if I'm going in and checking for updates, I can go get that update if you've released it. I'll help test, right? I'm going and seeking out that update. Allow me to get it. I don't get why companies we got to roll it out in our own special way when you could really know that if somebody's seeking it, let them have it first. They're going to help you, right? The customer is willing to help you in these scenarios. They're the ones seeking it. They're not going through and my wife is a whole different scenario. She's not going to go press check update unless I do it for her. But by that time, I'm going to have already verified that the update works. So if that, you just have to do it on their normal schedule whenever you're slowly doing the rollout. And if you can get and stay on top of all these Android versions, this is going to be a huge benefit overall. So there needs to be improvement overall on the whole OnePlus side of getting these Android updates out, being more seamless about it. And I think that's, one of these Android things in general is just get more seamless version of version, upgrading things, syncing things, making sure that people's settings are carried over properly. I usually, this is my first phone I carried over from one Android version to the next. It wasn't the best experience. I usually start fresh each time, and I can see why people do that. It's a much, it still takes a long time to get all your apps, signing it in and everything. But the seamlessness of it, of upgrade version of version, is not as clear and not as easy as it should be. And these are things that are all solvable. It's just that somebody's going to have to take initiative to be able to do it and just go from there. Now, I will say this. This phone takes really good photos. I'm upgrading from the OnePlus 6T. My wife and I have commented on how well the camera system does work. Um, uh, the 4K video works really well. It's much better than the 6T. These are minor improvements. I really like the 128 hertz screen. There's a lot of benefits. Like I said, I would definitely buy this phone again, and it was a great upgrade from the OnePlus 6T. One thing I thought of is, if it wasn't for my mobile provider requiring some of the other lines I have to be upgraded, why would I even upgrade to the OnePlus 9? Or why would I even upgrade to any phone past the OnePlus 6T? It was such a good phone, and it worked quite well. Come to find out, I didn't realize that this phone was going to be so smooth, so easy of operation. The battery life is great. The charging of the 65-watt charger just goes through, and I get about a day and a half on battery, and then all of a sudden what will happen is I plug it in for 5-10 minutes and get enough charge to last another day, day and a half. So it works really well to be able to do that, reducing the amount of time that I need to think about putting on the charger, where I'm thinking of, okay, I need a few minutes here and there to get a charge, and then I'm out the door, the times I leave. Or I noticed that I didn't even charge my phone up all the way. I forgot to charge it up because some of my plans changed this past weekend, and my plans were adjusted. So I forgot to throw my phone on the charger and I was looking at it. I'm like, oh shoot, I'm gonna need some battery life of this. I'm going out. I was helping a friend install network and working on a little bit of setting up the internet and everything there at the new house. I'm like, oof, that's a long drive. I like to throw on a YouTube video so I can listen to it. I don't watch it. I listen to it. But that of course has a screen on the whole time because I don't have YouTube Premium. So it's just on the whole time. I have the map up, Google Maps, to do GPS there, and I do a quick charge. It's like 77%. I'm there all day. I get back super late. Actually, it was early, super late. It was after midnight. I get back, and the phone still has battery life. That's what I like to see. That's what's really impressed me about this phone, is that it fixed a pain point I didn't know I had, which was the charging of the OnePlus 6T. And it's not that the OnePlus 6T was slow, it's that this is just so much quicker that the charging, my charging style has changed, right? It's no longer, I have to, make sure I plug it in at a certain time or once it's a certain battery life, I know that I can plug this in and it's going to be topped off to a certain percentage within a very short period of time. So it allows you to do different things and charge for those sort of periods of time. Time will tell to see how the battery degrades and all that, but so far I've been really impressed. So there's a lot of great things about this phone, a lot of stuff I like, but I will say, some of the pain points, if they were solved, would make it a much better experience, and then we can look at other stuff that needs to be improved. Right? You got to start someplace, and you got to. I work on software myself as a developer, and you always got to start someplace with, the design of the hardware is very nice. The software is great once you get it on your phone, but the longevity and there's some little things that if you were to improve upon would be just an amazing device. And I wish I had a Samsung device to compare to, a newer one within the last year, but I don't, so I can't really compare it to it to see how they would compete against each other. Because in the end, right, the network speed, whatever else, 5G, whatever, right, it gets me my data at some level. I really don't care too much. What I really want is a device that's workable and usable and that fits around the needs that I have, and this device does do that. Takes the pictures, maintains all my emails and everything else I manage. Um, does a lot of stuff on the go whenever I'm helping somebody else, on the phone with, you know, friends call you up for when you're the computer guy. Friends call you all the time up to, hey, fix this or that. What's this information? And this is there, and it works very well. Battery life is great. I do like the smooth scrolling, and it's been a great device overall. Let me know if you have any questions about this. I would definitely buy this again, like I've said. And until next time, I want to thank you guys all for watching. Thank you for taking the time to help support Gravelone, helping this channel grow. Until next time, God bless, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.